Ron DeSantis isn't alone in targeting trans youth. Last year, states passed a record number of anti-LGBTQ plus bills, and over 100 of the proposed bills around the country, and of the 100 proposed bills around the country, they overwhelmingly targeted trans youth. I mean, it's already really hard to be a trans young person in America, and these political attacks really make it a lot worse. According to a recent survey, among LGBTQ plus youth, trans boys and girls and non-binary youth report the highest rates of suicidal thoughts. And joining us now, Chase Strangio. He is the Deputy Director for Trans Justice at the ACLU's LGBT and HIV Project. I also want to mention that Chase has been named one of the Grand Marshals for this year's New York City Pride Parade, which is very exciting. Pride is my favorite thing in New York City. I miss going to Pride. Chase, I want to start off by asking what it will mean for trans youth in the state of Florida if Ron DeSantis' administration bans gender-affirming health care.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me and for the Pride references. And again, this is DeSantis doing something at the beginning of Pride Month, which he loves to do. Last year, he banned trans youth from sports. This year, he's obviously taken very extreme action targeting trans people, not just trans youth, but as we've seen, he's now had the entire state of Florida's Medicaid program being leveraged to deny healthcare for trans people of all ages, which I think is an important thing to note here, which is that all of these attacks on trans young people were never going to stop with young people. And just like the attacks on sports were never going to stop with sports, we are seeing the expansion and the continued erosion of the survival opportunities for the entire trans community. And obviously, when you threaten to take away people's healthcare, what you are threatening is their very survival, and that's what's at issue here. This healthcare that is being banned in the Medicaid context, that some states have banned categorically for trans adolescents, is life-saving care. It is supported by every major medical association in the United States. And what we have is the DeSantis administration using fear-mongering and weaponizing confusion about trans people to really take actions to eradicate this population. And this is incredibly serious. It's incredibly dangerous, and we're seeing the escalation over and over. And I just want to say, it is exceedingly frustrating to continue to hear about this as a culture war, when the reality is this is a question of survival. This is people's ability to survive in the world. The notion that some things are culture war issues and other things are what? Non-culture war issues is completely stigmatizing and actually empowers the politicians who want to leverage confusion about or fear of different communities in a way to really significantly harm them.
It's such a good point. I mean, I often think about how identity politics could be called civil rights. In this case, we could just call this human rights instead of saying it's a culture war issue with two sides. You're talking about people's ability to get the healthcare that they need to stay alive and have human dignity. That seems different than something that you would just put forward for an intellectual debate where people sit with their cups of tea or whatever and debate whether or not other human beings should have access to healthcare. I mean, one of the other pieces here is that Florida is also moving to ban care for trans adults on Medicaid. I mean, what impact will that have?
I mean, this is a catastrophe. I mean, this is the state coming in and saying, you know, we're going to remove all of the ability for you to access the healthcare that you need. And all of these arguments about banning healthcare for trans youth, which we knew to be disingenuous, were always focused on, well, these are kids, these are young people, they don't have the ability to make these decisions, which is categorically untrue, and their parents are involved in those decisions. But in any event, within a matter of months, we see that this is being pivoted to ban care for adults. This is not about age. And the argument that is being leveraged in all of these contexts is that it's inherently harmful to be trans, that we don't want trans people. We want to minimize the number of people who are able to transition safely. And that really is an argument for our eradication. I mean, it's really hard to conceptualize it as anything else. And I am in court all the time litigating these cases. The way that the state defends them is by bringing out experts who say it is bad to be trans. And we therefore have an interest as the state to stop people from being trans. And if we stop and take a step back, this is about something a lot bigger than healthcare. And when DeSantis issued his initial memorandum, or his agency did, they're trying to ban social transition. They're trying to tell parents whether or not they can dress their kids a certain way to affirm who their young people, who their children are. I mean, talk about an intrusion into the parental rights of Floridians who are affirming of their children. I thought the conservative platform was pro-parental rights, but apparently only if you reject your trans child.
I mean, I want somebody to explain to me in 2 sentences why it's bad to be trans. Explain to me. Why is that bad? The whole idea of where that's like an assumption, they just skip over without having to explain is wrong. We should force them to explain. In Ohio, the House of Representatives, because this extends beyond Florida, passed a bill banning trans girls and women from high school and college sports and requiring that any athlete accused of being trans have their genitals checked by a doctor. I mean, you've talked about this on the show, right? When these bans come up in sports, that means that people are literally inspecting other people to check. And like, that's where we're headed. And again, we're skipping over a lot of what the substance and real outcomes would be if many of these provisions and laws go into place.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just completely emblematic of where we are, which is now 17 states currently ban trans women and girls from sports. These are completely unenforceable provisions of law that essentially allow anyone to dispute someone's sex and then empower the state to come in and demand that people verify their sex. And what that means, as the Ohio bill demonstrates, and that language is already codified in many states. In Idaho, the first state to pass such a bill, has that very same genital inspection language. And anyone, it doesn't even have to be a good faith accusation that someone is not a sort of biological girl, can come in, whether it's a parent on the other team, and say, your kid's too good. We don't believe they're a girl. Now we're going to go subject them to this type of testing. And the reality is that there's already very few trans people playing sports because we face so much discrimination. And so when you empower the state to implement these completely unenforceable rules, they're going to harm cis people. And you know who they're going to harm the most is Black and brown girls who have always been subject to the most sex-based policing. And the history of sex verification in sport is one that dates back 100 years to the efforts to police women entirely out of sports, and then specifically Black and brown women from the global South. There is a long and racist legacy to these types of regulations, and we are reintroducing them into the K-12 context in the United States, and that should terrify all of us.
It's really, really scary when you dig deep into this issue. And Chase Strangio, thank you so much for being here, because you're always on top of all of this, and I follow you closely just to see what really the worst developments are. But all of your analysis is so helpful. Please stay safe. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.